And we live at a moment in time where the Father has disappeared, where we can't find the Father. We can't find the Father in culture, and we often can't find the Father in the Western world in the family. Father's Day, right? The blessing of the Father. It's such a big deal, right? It's such a big deal. What is the blessing of the Father? Right? The blessing of the mother is, I hold you so close. You're so wildly beautiful. No matter what, right? You're always resting in my arms, right? Wherever you fall into my arms. I'm always with you, right? That's the blessing of the mother. The blessing of the Father is, right? I see you, I'm calling you, right? The Father says there are first principles and first values, and I'm going to name them and call you to align with them and call you to give your gifts in them. Mother doesn't name first principles and first values. And of course, everyone, I'm not talking here about literal mother and father. I'm talking about the quality of mother and the quality of father. And sometimes that lives in actual fathers, and sometimes it lives in actual mothers. And we need both, right? People need a father and a mother. Right? Those are critical. So the Father's about naming. The Father names first principles and first values. The Father articulates the principles and calls the Son with mad love, but also with demand, right? To actually to show up and to give her gift and to give his gift, right? And to be aligned with those first principles and first values. That's the blessing of the Father, right? And we live at a moment in time where the Father has disappeared, where we can't find the Father. We can't find the Father in culture, and we often can't find the Father in the Western world in the family. My dear friend, who's the vice president of the Center for Integral Wisdom, right, in charge of gender for the last 10 years, right, wrote a book, and we were really happy to work with him to get it published. Fantastic book called The Boy Crisis in the United States in the last year and a half. And the book was one of the key things that the think tank wanted to incubate in. It's been in Warren for many, many years. And he's put it into the world now. And it's having enormous impact. He must have gotten some 40, 50 million viewers in different iterations of The Boy Crisis. And The Boy Crisis is, in one sense, it points out a simple fact that the common denominator in the breakdown of boys is the failure of father, that the father relationship doesn't happen. And Warren himself is madly, and the world's paradoxical. Warren himself is not a father. He's actually never had a child. He has a wonderful, right, stepchild, which is Liz's child that Warren's, right, really deeply involved with, but basically has this enormous yearning to be a father. And so his desire for father manifested this boy crisis in this gorgeous way. But it's not just the father that's missing in the family. The father's missing in culture, right? The father who says that value is not just a social construction, right? That value is real, right? I turn to the Father to name value and to point me towards value. Friends, what is the major myth? What's the major myth? The major mythic story in the last 50, 60 years in, the world. The most oft watched myth, the most oft seen story is Star Wars, without question. Star Wars. It's a mythology. Now, at the very center of Star Wars, right, you have one issue. What's the central issue in Star Wars? The Father. That's what the whole thing's about, the Father. I mean, just track that with me, friends, right? Just track that with me. It's kind of shocking and unbelievable. And Anakin Skywalker the son of Shmi Skywalker, who's going to ultimately be seduced to the dark side. We don't know who his father is. That's the mystery of Star Wars, is we don't know who Anakin's father is. Wow. And then Anakin loses connection to his kids as he turns into Darth Vader. And then his son, Luke Skywalker, Luke, the son, realizes and is told that Darth Vader was his father. And then again, right, he goes to try and bring his father back. And in the end, at the moment in which Luke Skywalker was going to be killed, the moment in which Luke Skywalker was going to be killed, destroyed by the blue lightning of Palpatine, who's really Darth Sidious, the Sith Lord, his father steps in, and he's the father and holds him. Palpatine himself, Darth Sidious, has a teacher who's his father, Darth Plagueis, right? And he kills his father, right? When the student kills the teacher, it's the killing of the father. It's the most painful experience. We have a student that you love madly, that you hold dearly, and the student goes to kill the father. It's unimaginable. Right? The story of Judas betraying Christ is the betrayal of the father, right? So there's the father who betrays the child, but there's the child who betrays the father. And it's the restoration of the father that actually, right, when he becomes a father again, that allows Darth Vader to return and become again Anakin Skywalker. Like, wow, right? The central issue of our time is the issue of the father. And what the father has to do is not just the New Age move. The New Age move, right, is the move of the mother. It's the embrace, right? The father, right? We're left with the corrupt father of the surface structures of the religions that each argue, right? I'm the only father, right? I'm the father only to my people, but there's not a universal father, right? It's a degraded father. So we need to reclaim an evolved father, the evolutionary father. We need to reclaim the father who names first values and first principles, the father who actually names and explicitly tells a story, right? Like, wow. Wow. So we want to give each other the blessing of the father. We're going to turn to the father, and not the mythic father, right? The quality of father, right? Who is value, right? Who calls us, who demands our best, who loves us madly, right? Who names the new story, right? Who demands and needs our partnership and our alignment. And it's only when Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker come together, and when the father and son come together. Right? I'll tell you something wild. The very last verse of the entire biblical story is V'heshiv lev avot al banim v'lev banim al avotam. Let the father's heart turn and transform the son, and let the son transform and turn to the father. Right? The father and the son. And this applies to every woman and to every man. It's not about male and female. It's about the father and the son. We're all the father and we're all the son. We've talked about the blessing of the mother, and we will more. Now we're talking about the blessing of the father. So first, for a second, if everyone can just kind of find your own father and find the beauty of your own father, and find the disappointments, right? And forgive the ways your father might not have been able to be a complete father. And then receive, right, any glimmering of the blessing of the father from your father, but then move beyond your father and receive the blessing of the father from reality itself. Right? Let me bless you. Let you bless me. Let's bless each other with the blessing of the father. Feel that together, right? Father, right? We're going to turn to the father, right? And we've so often in our own lives been betrayed by the father, right? Where we feel, and then we feel the father's not there. We might have been betrayed by the father, right? In some relationship, right? Of teacher or father. We might have been betrayed by the father, right? By a postmodern culture that told us there's no value. We might have been betrayed by that one person we trusted. So we got to move beyond the betrayal. We've got to reclaim the father, because underneath the betrayal is love, right? That's the response of Jesus to Judas, right? The response is underneath the betrayal is love. You can only be betrayed by someone who would never betray you, but underneath the betrayal, right, is love, and it's the love of the Father. The love of the Father's always there. The basic movement of the awake human being is to be able to step out of my narrow perspective, to move from what we call in the interior sciences, from our side to his side. We could also say from our side to her side, but this week is the Father. So it's from mitzidenu in the original language, in one of the traditions, from our side to his side. And I want to see with God's eyes. So evolutionary love in the code is a perception. We're going to come back even deeper to the code next week. But for now, right, love's not merely an emotion, it's a perception. And to be a lover is to see with God's eyes. It's to see what God sees. It's to actually experience God in the first moment of the Big Bang, right? The Father who organizes all reality in the first 3 seconds of the Big Bang in coherent laws of value, and then creates the value of allurement that links subatomic particles all the way up the evolutionary chain, right? The God who is the Father who brings together through the inseminated seed, right? The baby, right? Who goes through all the stages of evolution in the womb, right? To actually see that, to feel all that happening, to step out of my narrow perspective, that's what it means to be a lover. The divine, the original Father, the original lover, the original self-organizing force of reality